production school in Florida called Full Sail. And during our time there, we stayed at this like apartment building, Mike and I. So like, you know, normal colleges when you go to school, you're in a dorm and whatnot, but this school, because it was like a production recording school, there was no dorms, so we had to get our own apartment. So we stayed at this apartment, and one night, something happened. Like Mike and I were like visited by some type of ghost.
Yeah, we still don't quite understand it, but like we had marks to even prove it.
So it was like probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I heard Mike screaming in his room. And so I just heard him screaming, but again, it's Mike, so I'm like, I'm going back to sleep, whatever, like maybe whatever's going on.
And I don't usually wake up screaming, or do I?
I mean, I
guess it's not as crazy as he thought.
For some reason, it just didn't trigger me to get
He wasn't worried.
Yeah, he wasn't worried, but something happened upstairs. He was upstairs, I had a room downstairs, and the next morning, when I tell you I woke up with a huge scratch across my chest. I'm not even kidding. And it wasn't just like a little scratch. It looked like a cat scratched my chest all the way down. Not something I could have done to myself.
Yeah, it was weird.
And then, even stranger, was next door, our neighbor was murdered. And CNN and Fox News was all outside our apartment that day as well. So we don't really know what happened, but that is probably like the biggest...
Very unexplainable.
Yeah, the biggest paranormal experience we've had is that time in Florida where like...
And basically what happened to me, like all I remember when I was screaming was I was in a type of like a sleep, like what's it called, like a sleep paralysis. You know what I mean? And like, but I was like there, but it was the weird, I was like frozen, and I could hear him like ask like once or twice, like just like Mike,
just yelling up to him, you know.
And then he just stopped. He was like, oh, he's just like having like a dream, and I was stuck. Like I couldn't like really speak. You know what I mean? I was just stuck. And then I think I snapped out of it, and then I woke you up, and I was just like what happened?
And that's when I looked at my chest and I had this huge like cat scratch, and it was just
strange night.
Like guys, when it comes to ghosts and all this stuff, like it's not like something that I believe like to death. I'm not like 100% I'm like the ghost guy or anything like that. But I can't explain this one. I really don't know.
I remember Ryan called me the next morning and told me what happened. So I was like, what are you talking about? And then he sent me the picture. So I actually saw the scratches, and I was just thinking about exactly what they just told me. I was just thinking about the whole story, and it was the scratches were bizarre. Like the angle of the scratches was very bizarre. So yeah.
But it's like one of those things that when paranormal type of stuff happens to you, you know, at least for myself, I didn't dwell on it. Like I almost just forgot about it, and now I'm asked about it now, so I'm telling you that. But like for the most part, it's something that I kind of block out, you know?
I think we had a second part of that question. What's your favorite horror movie?
Favorite horror movie? Personally, I'm a big fan of like The Conjuring, Annabelle, those type of movies.
Those are like, yes, but the recent ones, I would have to say, Conjuring really got me, but like as like the OG, like the old stuff, I would say Texas Chainsaw just always hits home. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
Last weekend we were in Pennsylvania at the Pennsylvania Horror Con, which is pretty close to where we live, and we got to hang out with some of the cast from Terrifier. And I don't know, have you guys seen the movie Terrifier? Raise of hands? No? Maybe? Yeah? It's a good movie.
You guys should check it out. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so we watched that together before we came here, and that's a good one. So if you guys haven't seen Terrifier, it's on Tubi, I believe, and it's pretty, if you're scared of clowns, I would watch it.
Another movie that I would say would probably be one of my favorite horror movies was a movie from a couple years back. It's called The Fire in the Sky. It was with the Travis Walton story. And I was always very fascinated in that story, and I think that they really captured a lot of great scenes in that movie. So as far as like an alien movie, I'd probably say A Fire in the Sky for me. So
yeah, The Fire in the Sky is definitely one of the best alien movies I think that was ever made. Are you guys familiar with Fire in the Sky or the Travis Walton story? Yeah, so Good. Yeah. Basically, it's about a guy that was abducted, and he was found days later, and his friends were being charged because they thought that maybe they killed him or something, and it was all a true story. And you could, if you guys don't know the story, if you guys go on the Joe Rogan podcast, they actually bring Travis on. He tells the entire story, and it's pretty convincing, I gotta say.
So going along those lines with older UFO stories, I'm sure you've done a lot of research or looked into them just being in the field. Are there any ones that stick out to you or that specifically you thought were interesting or maybe less well known?
Yeah, well, for us as a band, again, like all of our songs are about the paranormal. Like that's really the topic that we try to cover. So one of our songs is called Living Terror. And basically it's about people that experience these things and then they have to push on in their life. Like imagine if you have a paranormal experience and then you have to live on. Like something happened to you. Like how do you control your fear? How do you control your thoughts? So really that's what our song Living Terror is about. And there's one story that sticks out to me the most because again, we are in Canada, but there's a lot of UFO stories that have happened in the States that a lot of people aren't aware of. Like a lot of people have they just get swept under, and especially now, like, the Pentagon a couple months ago said it's okay now to believe in UFOs and aliens, but forever you weren't really allowed to believe in it without, being made fun of and whatnot. So there's one story that really sticks out to me, and it's called the Cash Landrum incident. So if you guys are not familiar with this story, basically a couple and a little boy were driving in Texas. And basically what happened was they saw a UFO, and when they approached the UFO, they stopped their car, and they got out, and Betty walked towards the car, and she felt a red beam, like heat coming off this object coming towards her. And so what she did is she turned away and went back into the car, and she noticed that the car itself was super hot. So this car herself, everything in the area is becoming very hot. So finally, she goes home, and she realizes these blisters all over her body. Her hair starts to fall out. So it's the middle of the night, and she goes over to the hospital. And they kept this woman there for over a month. Okay, true story is that they kept this woman there for over a month. So she gets out, she racks up all these medical bills, and finally she wants to take the town to court because whatever that was that happened to me, like, you should have said something. So anyway, I always find that story very convincing because she was injured, her hair was falling out, she believes she was poisoned by radiation, like something clearly happened that evening, and I think like those are the stories that convince me when it comes to paranormal type of stuff, is the stories that, when something tragic happens to somebody. If somebody says like, oh, I saw an alien and I, beat them up, or like something heroic behind it, I don't believe it. But if somebody has medical bills because they were in the hospital for it, it's pretty convincing, like what the heck happened to this person. So, a lot of the material that we write on our album is paranormal, and it's influenced off these like American encounter stories that most people aren't aware of, because these stories date back to like the 1980, 1947 in Roswell. So again, like there's so many stories out there that people don't know about, and like especially like the youth of today, we would love for them to like learn these stories, maybe through our songs, like just like maybe through our music, more people can hear about these stories.
Definitely. You talked about what Living Terror meant. That was one of the videos that played in the beginning. You also played Nightmare. Could you tell us about maybe the process of writing Nightmare, what it means to you, or what the song's about?
Yeah, so when our song Nightmare came out, that was our single that was released on Sirius XM Octane, and the song Nightmare was really about about somebody going through a really hard time. We all go through really hard times at points in our life, and sometimes it feels like you're in a nightmare, and that song is kind of about realizing that you're in that hard time and figuring out how to break through, right, and get through these hard times. So if you know, the hook in the song is I'm living my life in a nightmare, right? And it's the main point of the song is really that it's okay to feel these, you know, these negative thoughts and to feel like you're going through it, but at the end of the day, it's all about working through it and trying to get past it. So that's really the message of the song Nightmare.
Nightmare's one of my favorite songs. It's also one of your biggest singles. Could all three of you give me maybe your favorite track on Ultra Black, or first favorite one or two tracks, either in terms of the writing, the music, or what it means to you? Just talk a little bit about your favorite track or two.
Yeah, I would say favorite track is probably the song, Living Terror. It just hits home for me. Yeah, Living Terror.
My favorite track on the album would probably be track 10 on the album. It's called Breathe, and it was one of those tracks. I remember being in the studio, and when we were putting it together, and it was just one of those times where, you know, you feel like you're going through a lot, and you're putting a lot of your heart and soul into it. And the song is called Breathe because sometimes, like, you're going so hard and you're going through so much stuff that you just want to take a breath and chill for a sec, you know. But you're so in the moment that it's really hard to do. So for me, I would say track 10, Breathe, would probably stand out the most to me as far as the track on the album.
Awesome. I have one last question. So we talked about your album Ultra Black. That's your second album. First we had Freak Show, and now we have Ultra Black. So I was just wondering sort of what's in the works. Like, could you talk about what events are coming next, what projects you're working on, what's next for the band?
So we've been traveling all over the US. We were at the Niagara Falls Comic-Con, and we've been working on something secret that we have not told anybody in the States yet, but we have made a movie. And so for the past year, we've secretly been making a movie, and so we've been all over different locations throughout the US. And last night we were in the hotel room, and we were like, should we tell maybe Toronto about our movie? So the past year we've been, you know, besides working on different music and another album, we've been putting a lot of time into this film that we're making, and we thought that maybe today we could show a glimpse of the movie. Do you guys want to see it? All right. So you guys are going to be the first ones to see this, and again, this is just a couple clips from the film. It's about, I'll give you a little bit about it, is basically, it's a paranormal movie about aliens and extraterrestrials, and they're so-called, there's a lot of underground bases in America that the government control, and this is a film about us seeing something that we probably shouldn't have seen and being taken to one of these underground bases, and we have to get out. So again, we put this together last night in our hotel room. We really weren't going to play it, but again, we're in Toronto. We're from New Jersey, and we figured right now...
Where's better than Fanexpo to
Fanexpo, right?
First.
Make some noise for Fanexpo Toronto. We're having such a blast, guys. Honestly, this is going to be really fun. Again, we will be over at our booth after this today, so if you haven't visited us yet, please come over to the booth. Check out our album, Ultra Black. And, Brent, do you have anything else?
Guys, we're just really, really happy to be here. We love Canada. Every time we're here, everybody is so cool to us. Everybody is so friendly. So, yeah, just like last night, we were saying, you know, we've had this movie that we've been creating, really on the DL, and here it is. A little glimpse.